Hey everyone, welcome to JavaScript Array Methods video. When you write code, at some point you will have to work with arrays. They have some methods that allow you to work easily with them. These methods make your code more readable and efficient. So let's see how you can do it with some examples.
So we have an array people where each element is an object. How can we iterate through this array? Well, the most usual way is to use the for loop. Let's try it. For loop for. Let's declare index on each step. Then while index is less than the length of our array, which is people.length, and let's iterate I on each step. And let's just console log each of our elements. We can do this by writing the name of our array and passing it the index. At first it is going to be 0, so it is going to refer to this object. Then it is going to iterate +1 because of this, and it is going to be this object, then this object, and so on. Let's save, and we get the expected result. But can we do this without using the for loop? We can by using the methods. Let's comment this out. And the first method I'm going to show you is called ForEach. To use it, we call our array people.forEach, and it accepts a function. And this function accepts 3 parameters. The first parameter is an object, person. Let's call it person. The second parameter is index, and the third parameter is an array itself. Let's call it array people. So at first iteration, this person is going to refer to this object, to the first one. Then it is going to be this one, but we're not gonna pass through the index like we do here. What we're gonna do is just console log person. And that's it. We don't have to give him this index because for each method is going to automatically increment this array by itself. And this person is going to refer at the object one by one. Let's try it, and we get the same exactly result. Let's also console log index and the array itself, just to see what they look like. Here we get our object, its index, and our whole array. But in fact, we don't really use index and array that much, and it's not necessarily to put them here. So we can just delete them from here, save, and we get just our objects. And let's make it even shorter. Instead of word function, let's use ES6 syntax arrow functions. So we can delete this, just put here an arrow, save, and we get the same result. But actually we can make it even simpler. Since we have only one line, we can delete this from here as well and get only one line of code. And we get the same result. So as you can see, for each method is much cleaner and much less of code than the for loop. The second method I want to show you is called map method. Let's comment this out. The main thing about the map method is that it returns us a new array. So we have to store somewhere this new array. Let's declare a variable. Let's call it new people. And here we write the name of our array. Then we put that map. And here it's the same thing as before in ForEach. It also accepts function, but let's use arrow function right away. So here it also accepts 3 parameters: object, index, and array itself. And again, this person is going to refer at each of our elements on each iteration. These methods are going to know automatically which object is this person referring to. So again, we're not really going to use index and array of people, so we can just delete them. Now we can return our person. We return it because this method is going to return us a new array, and we store it in this variable. So now we can console log this variable. Console.log new people. And we get our array. But that's not all the map method can do. We can also modify somehow our array. For example, let's return into this new array full name of each person in our array. So to do that, we write person dot first name plus, let's make space, plus person dot last name. Save. And now in our new people array, we're gonna have full names of each of our objects. But it's important to know that we do not change our original array. So if we console log this one, it is going to be exactly the same as it was before. We're not changing it in any way. We're returning us a completely new array with only the full names of each of our objects. So let's say, for example, we want to return only the amount of taxes that each person will have to pay. Let's say person.salary multiplied by 0.25. Let's say the tax is 25%. And now we can console this, save, and we get only the amount of taxes that each person will have to pay by multiplying our salary on 0.25. Okay, the next method I want to show you is called filter method. Filter method also returns us a new array, just like the map. So let's say const filtered people and write our array people.filter. Filter also accepts a function as a parameter. Let's write the arrow function right away. And here we also put object. We can also put index and array, but we don't need to, so we're just going to leave the person here. Only the object that's going to refer to each of our objects in our array. So here what we need to do is to return some condition, but instead of writing if and so on, we can just write our condition right away. Let's say we want to return only people who's older than 30 years old. For this we can write person that age is more than 30. And let's console log our new array. Console.log filtered people. Okay, and we get only 3 objects, because only 3 people here are older than 30 years old. So here we have to only pass our condition, and if this condition is going to be true, this object is going to be added to our new array. We can also put more conditions here. Let's say we want some people who's older than 30 years old, but also whose salary is more than $80,000. Let's say and person dot salary is more than 80,000. Save. And now we get only 2 people. Another method I want to show you is a little bit different from the previous ones. It's called reduce. Reduce can get us some final value after making some calculation, after iterating through our array. So let's try it on the example. People.reduce. And reduce is going to accept 2 parameters. The first parameter is function, like this, and the second parameter is going to be our initial value. For now, let's put it 0. Here, let's call our first parameter ag, and the second person, which is going to be our object. So this ag is going to be this initial value at first, 0. So let's say we want to find the sum of all the salaries of all people. So we write our function and we say arc plus person dot salary. So what is going to happen here is that at first iteration, this person is going to refer to the first object. And this arc is going to be equal to 0, since this is our initial value. So here it is going to be 0 plus in the first person's salary, 90,000. When it's going to be added, this arc will become 90,000. And here it is going to be 90,000 on the second iteration, plus already the new value of new person, 120. And so on. Here now it's going to be 210,000. Here also the same amount, plus next salary, 50,000, and so on until the finish. And then in the end, it will return us some final amount of all the salaries. So let's put it in a variable, call it sum. And let's console log our result. $370,000. So if we put here initial value as 100,000, let's say, then now our answer is going to be 100,000 more. And the last thing I want to show you is how we can combine all these methods with each other. Let's say we want to find people whose salary is less than $80,000. Then we want to increase their salary by 1.2 and return the sum of their new salaries. So at first we'll have to use filter method to filter out people whose salary is not less than 80,000. So let's say people dot filter, have a pass in only our object, person, arrow function, and we write our condition, person dot salary less than 80,000. So the next thing you want to do is to increase their salary by 1.2. But instead of writing again people.map, we can just chain our methods. So right here after this, we write dot map. Again, we pass in our object, person, and we say person.salary multiply by 1.2. Let's see what we have here right now. Const filtered array equals to this. And let's console log it. Filtered array. Now we get only 3 numbers. So at first we filtered out people whose salary is less than 80,000. So at first it was like this. Only 3 objects in our array. Then we calculate new salary for each person. But map returns us a new array. So we only get the salaries of each of these people. 60,000, 84,000, and 48,000. So now what we want to do is to calculate the sum of these numbers. For this, we are going to use reduce method. Reduce. Here we write our ec and our number. And here we write ec plus number. And as the initial value, we're going to put 0. So at first, this ec is going to equal to 0. Number is going to be our first number in our array, which is 60,000. Then 0 plus 60,000 is going to be 60,000 here, plus our new number, which is 84,000, and so on until the end of our array. And now we're going to have sum as a final result. Let's console log. And we get 192,000. If we put here our initial value as 100,000, we are going to have $292,000. And that's it. These are all the methods I wanted to show you today. If you enjoyed the video, put a like, subscribe, and see you next time.